So you should have your packet open to Part 3, Summary Questions, the reproductive packet. We're going to start with these questions to review what we've learned. And it says, the testes and ovaries are part of the reproductive system, which you already know. They are also parts of the endocrine system. Explain why they are parts of the endocrine system. So you have to remember that the endocrine system is responsible for releasing hormones. And the two hormones that are involved in the reproductive system is basically, well, in the female system, it's estrogen and progesterone, and in the male system, it's testosterone. So that's why they're parts of both systems. So the hormones involved in the reproductive system are part of the endocrine system as they work to keep the reproduction systems, can't spell, and the working and help maintain homeostasis. Okay, so that's that question. The next question, what is going on here? I guess I have to erase it, so pause and get that down and then continue. There we go. It says, list the path of an egg from its creation to the outside of the female body. You should include 4 different structures. So we learned about those up here, right? All the way up here. Okay. We have the ovaries, the fallopian tubes, the uterus, and the vagina. So believe it or not, it's actually in that order, and I will, whoops, where was I just working? I will discuss that with you as we're writing this. So we have the ovaries. This is where the egg is released from. Then it travels to the fallopian, through the fallopian tubes. And remember, there's like little hair-like structures in the fallopian tube that help move the egg along. It's in the fallopian tube that the sperm will meet the egg. And then if the egg is fertilized, it becomes a zygote. And it continues to travel from the fallopian tube to the uterus, where it will implant in the uterus and grow for 9 months. And then when the baby is ready to be born, it exits through the vagina. So those are the 4 organs that the path of the egg takes. Lastly, it says, explain how the ovaries of the female reproductive system are similar in function to the testes of the male reproductive system, even though they are different, because one is for male things and the other is for female things. What do they have in common? Well, the ovaries are responsible for producing the eggs, and the testes are responsible for producing the sperm. So they both are responsible for producing the sex cells. So they both produce sex cells. These are called gametes. And in the ovary, we have the egg, and in the testes, we have the sperm. So hopefully you knew that. If not, we just reminded you of that. So so pause, get that down, and then continue the video. So the last part that we're going to talk about in reproduction is pregnancy and development. We're going to look at the parts of the womb, which you see on the right, and we're going to locate each structure listed in the diagram. So you have the uterus. This is a muscle where the fetus grows and develops. It's the site of internal development. And you can see that the uterus is, so the uterus is this whole outside like lining that you see. I'm not going to highlight all of it because it's right next to something else, the amniotic sac. So you can see that there's two lines here, right? You can see that there's two lines here. One is the outer, which is the uterus, and the inner one is the amniotic sac. This is the baby's home, and it's filled with fluid that surrounds the baby, and it protects the baby from any outside bumps, so it's like a shock absorber. It's usually maintained at 99.7 degrees Fahrenheit, and it allows the baby to move around. So the baby's like kind of swimming in this fluid. And when the mother's water breaks, it is the sac that ruptures and the fluid leaves the body. You also have the placenta. The placenta is hard to see, but it is over here. It's this kind of like mushroom-like thing right in here. And you also have in here, you can see this is the umbilical cord. And you can see it over here too. This is part of the umbilical cord here. So let's talk about the placenta first. That's formed when the woman becomes pregnant, and it's responsible for carrying nutrients and oxygen from the mother's blood to the baby's blood. So everything that goes through the mother's blood, the baby is going to wind up getting. So this is why it's really important not to drink, do drugs, vape, any of that while you're pregnant, because all of that gets to the baby. The umbilical cord is also responsible for removing waste from the fetal blood back to the maternal blood, and then the mother can excrete them. The nutrients and waste move by diffusion. We talked about diffusion. Diffusion is a process where substances move from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. In addition, the placenta provides pregnancy hormones and protects the baby from toxins. So at no time does the mom and baby's blood mix. Okay, that's really important because the mom and the baby can have different blood types depending on, the father, and that can cause a lot of problems. So the placenta becomes the barrier between the mother and the baby's blood. The umbilical cord is it's like the lifeline. It attaches the placenta to the fetus. This is not where the nutrients and wastes are exchanged between the mother and the baby. It's a cord that just carries things from the placenta to the baby. So the placenta is attached to the inside of the mother's uterus. From the placenta comes the umbilical cord, and the umbilical cord is the connection line between the placenta and the baby, and it attaches at the belly button. So what you're going to do next, you are going to watch the video on fertilization. You're going to pause this video and open the other video on fertilization, and you're going to watch it. And then you are going to answer these two questions. Then you're going to come back to this video. So pause this video now, watch the video on fertilization, answer these two questions, and then come back to this video. All right, so hopefully you've done that, and now you're ready to move on. We're going to read this text below and then answer a couple of more questions. Fertilization and mitosis. In humans, both males and females contain specialized reproductive structures designed to produce gametes. That should say male. Oh, they make sex cells, yes, and allow for fertilization. They let the sperm and egg join. Both males and females have specialized chemicals or hormones that regulate or control their reproductive systems. So fertilization, which I've already talked to you about, is when the sperm and egg join. That happens in the fallopian tube. And once the egg is fertilized, it's called a zygote. That zygote now contains DNA from the mom and the dad. Half from the mom, half from the dad. As I just said, fertilization occurs in the fallopian tubes. The sperm travels into the tube to meet the egg. The sperm and egg both have a half a set of DNA. So a half a set of DNA is called a haploid. So when they join together to create a zygote, they have a full set of DNA, which is called diploid. And the prefix, like di, can mean two. So haploid is half a set, begins with H, half, diploid, double, okay, full set. So this is when this one-celled zygote continues to carry out mitotic division, meaning the cell keeps dividing, and it grows in size and the number of cells, forming an embryo, which is the early stage of development. You will see this below. Okay, so what is fertilization and where does it occur in the female body? We just went over that. Okay, so you are going to rewrite this first sentence. Fertilization is when the sperm and egg join to become one cell, called a zygote. And you're going to write this: fertilization occurs in the fallopian tubes of females. You are writing that in question 3. Okay. If you need more time, please just pause me. How does a fertilized egg or zygote get a full set of DNA? So the sperm and egg both have a half set of DNA. So when they join together, they create the zygote with a full set of DNA. So you're writing that sentence for question number 4. It is crazy to think about it, but all of us started off as a zygote. We were once all made up of only one tiny cell with a full set of DNA, but now we are made up of trillions of cells. So how did that happen? Well, the short answer is mitosis. That one cell divided and made 2 cells, and then those 2 cells divided and made 4 cells, and then those 4 cells divided and made 8 cells, and so on and so forth. And this process kept going as we grew in our mom's body. Since this development occurred through mitosis, that means that every cell made has the exact same DNA, and that each cell of our body has a full set of DNA. The only cells that this is not true for is the sperm and egg cell. So every cell in our body, every single one of our trillion cells, have exactly the same DNA. So it's kind of wild to think about the fact that our eyes have the exact same DNA as our brain cells do, and the same exact DNA that our brain cells do. I think that's a repeat. Anyway, but it's still kind of weird. So if they have the exact same cells, then how do they do different things? Like, my eyes are used to see, my brain cells are used to think. So each part of our body has the same different DNA, but they do different things. Different. Remember that word. So how can such different parts of the body that look and act so differently be made of the same DNA? And that's because of a process called differentiation, which occurs very early in our development. During this process, cells get their jobs, meaning they become specialized. So even though they have the same DNA, they all get different jobs. So during differentiation, each cell expresses, remember we can turn on or turn off genes, right? Different parts of that genetic information. So even though they have the same exact genetic information, it only turns on the part that it needs, right? And different types of cells use different parts. That's what allows cells to have such different jobs and appearances. So the cells in my eyes turn on the genes for sight. The cells in my brain turn on the cells for thinking. The cells in my, reproductive system turn on those genes that are used to reproduce. So every cell has the exact same DNA, but certain DNA is turned on depending on where it's located and what its job is. So if I were to compare the DNA that is in the cells of your toes to the DNA that's in the cells of your heart, would be the same or different? Well, hopefully you said it's the same. It is the same DNA because all of our cells have the same DNA except sex cells, sperm, and egg. Different parts of DNA is turned on depending on where it is located in the body. Okay, so if you have to pause to get that down, pause and then continue when you're ready. So mitosis and embryonic development. So you've heard of women having different trimesters. Trimesters divides the 9 months into 3 equal parts, each trimester consisting of 3 months. So each trimester is 3 months of the baby's development. By the time the baby is 4 months, its heart and blood vessels have been formed and continue to develop. The lungs, stomach, and liver first start to form and grow at this point also. By 12 weeks, by week 12, so that's the end of 4 months, the eyelids, ears, arms, and legs are formed. All the major organs and body symptoms are completely formed by the 12th week of pregnancy. This is when most birth defects occur and is the most common time for a miscarriage. This is a sudden end to pregnancy and the baby is lost. So, how does the placenta help with the development of the baby? We talked about that earlier. We said that the placenta transfers the nutrients and oxygen and removes waste. Okay, so make sure you get that down. We already discussed that. List one function of the amniotic fluid. We talked about that. The amniotic fluid, if you remember, is a shock absorber to keep the baby safe against any bumps. Because it's a fluid-filled sac. So pause, get that down, and then restart. Okay, so you have now finished this assignment. If it's complete, you can turn it in, because sometimes you guys hold on to things and then you forget and then you wind up losing late points. Not good. So what you do next is up to you. There are 2 different assignments that you do have to complete. One is Ed Puzzle on reproduction system. There's 2 videos in there that you have to complete. The instructions are in the team's assignment. And the other one is a mountain lion activity. So both of these have to be completed. I think they have different due dates, so that might help you determine which one you want to do first, but not necessary. You are responsible for doing both of them. I expect you to be on task, not talking. I know that's really hard, but you need to get your work done. For some of you, doing well this quarter is crucial for passing the year. So it's a new leaf, it's a new marking period. Let's get down to business, please.